hopefully I can make this short. We'll be talking about drip tips and the diameters. We'll be revisiting that actually because I actually got in a few drip tips. This would be straight just white bore. And I'm not going to talk about the novelty drip tips. Like these. It's Panda. I'm going to be talking about these novelty drip tips. We'll be talking about the wide bores and I already made a video about drilling out your smaller bores to make it wider. I did have a comment saying that please upload a video of me actually doing it, but what is it to upload? I actually did it on camera and I screwed up my desk and made an ass of myself, and then I deleted the video. Later on I tried to upload it, I couldn't find it. But let me just show you. This is a a muffler tip style drip tip that I actually drilled out on camera last time. I screwed up on. It is pretty wide. What I just did was I grabbed it with a pair of pliers. I got my drill, and that's what I did. Okay, that was the video. Video time took me 20 minutes because I kept screwing up. It is metal. Sometimes it will get stuck on you. Sometimes it will spin on the pliers. Make sure that you have some kind of rubber or cloth over your drip tip when you apply it, because you will make scratches on your drip tip. So let's take a look at a few of the drip tips that I got in. Now this, again, considered a wide bore, but then the inside diameter is not so big. Okay, now as very comparable to this would be something like this. Now this is freaking huge. Alright, I can't really tell you exactly. You know what, let's compare it to something like a wide bore drip tip of a normal size. Okay, so this is actually a very wide bore, as wide as you could go on a 510, and this is why I actually love this drip tip. But mind you, it doesn't matter how big the center of the drip tip is. If your air holes are not drilled out big enough, you're not going to get the full advantage. Now, with something like this on a 0.3 ohm setup, I'll go ahead and test out different drip tips for you and kind of give you my impressions on it. This is another wide bore acrylic drip tip, but then again, the bottom is not as big as one would want it to be. I already showed you that one. This is a duckbill whistle drip tip, but it is actually pretty freaking huge right there. So it's not a wide bore. I just want to show you that, and in comparison to kind of something like this is whatever that puny little hole is right there. So let's get right to it. Get my setup. It looks like it's juiced up. Should I juice it a little more? Yes. So I'll juice it up in the middle. Okay. So let's start out with the widest drip tip I have. The biggest, most freaking honkiest drip tip that I have. Let's go ahead and pop it in there. See, that thing just looks hilariously funny. Awesome. Awesome in my opinion, but here you go. As expected, you get a very, very good airflow. These holes are drilled out pretty big, 3 millimeters on each side, I believe. And with this big bore drip tip, man, you do get that air. Woo! Awesome performance of this big bore drip tip. Now let's go with pretty much the same diameter drip tip, but much, much tinier. This is my favorite drip tip, guys. By far, my favorite. It's this little tiny drip tip with the most hugest hole. Exact same performance as that gigantic ass one. If you like dripping down your juice well, this big one is kind of a no-brainer. But if you like the airflow, but still like that smaller drip tip on there, this looks really good. Kind of covers your mouth really well, and you can push it against the top of that lid. Something like this with a wide ass bore with kind of medium size hole. This is kind of my second favorite. Okay, second favorite because if I want a lot of flavor that day, and this is kind of how I'm gonna rock this setup now. So it does not give me that tight air draw like this, or like the kind of stock one goes, but it gives me a little less kind of flow than these two little ones right here that have the huge bores inside. I don't know if you see that. Huge freaking bores. But as far as this one, it is kind of medium sized. When you're comparing it to the huge bore, you can kind of tell that if I put it on against the white background, okay, you could tell the difference in hole size. And even this one, the small one, kind of my favorite drip tip. Again, you can tell the diameter difference is huge. But I still like using this drip tip. Why? Because it gives me more flavor. It has a medium size hole, which is perfect. It's not a tight draw. But freaking awesome. So 0.3 to 0.5, this drip tip takes the cake for me as far as flavor and vapor. Point 0.3 and under, I'm going to use this tiny little puppy right here. And again, 0.3 and under, I could use this honky chunk of metal. I just like using this honky chunk of metal because it's honky. Right? It's pretty honky. Like, so this is an example of when I'm going to use this gigantic drip tip on a setup like this, and this is probably going to stay like this. I rebuilt this Omega RDA to 0.19 ohm coil, dual coil, 0.19 ohms. And with the Omega, it has freaking gigantic holes, so I need a huge inner diameter for me to actually supply the holes, and I actually need the airflow to cool down those coils quick. So, I mean, if I'm just taking a dry hit, that's freaking amazing. Like, I can breathe through this. Like, it's normal breathing. It has incredible amounts of airflow. At the same time, you need the coils to back this up so that you do kind of have, because if your coils don't heat up fast enough, if they don't stay hot, and you have that airflow going on, you're not going to get a good vape. And so this is kind of the setup I just wanted to show you of why these big ass drip tips do exist. It's kind of for you to vape like this. And it's so airy that I don't even think that I'm actually getting vapor. It's a shit ton of vapor, guys. So let's do my little half-second hit. So you can tell it's a shit ton of vapor. That's with the fan going off and the AC. I didn't bother to turn it off because it's hot. 95 degrees. It was 98 like an hour ago. So that's the reason why these big drip tips do exist, and they're useful. I will not use this drip tip on something like this because, quite frankly, I like the flavor production of this a lot better. 0.3 ohm dual coil. And I don't like taking those super fast inhales. Like this one, you have no choice. You have You have to take those super fast inhales. We'll try to slow drop for you. That's hot. So there is a time and a purpose for all drip tips. That should kind of conclude this video of drip tips and my revisit to drip tips. I probably won't make another video on drip tips because it's just a freaking tube with a hole in the middle. So that's about it. The only other thing is those novelty drip tips, and I really like them actually. I'm a huge fan of novelty drip tips. Why not vape in style? Did someone say panda? Yes, they did. So, I mean, maybe on my update videos you might see some novelty drip tips, but that's about it, right? Drip tips! Like I said, if you're using one of those big ass RDAs, make sure you get a medium to big size air hold drip tip. It's not kind of the industry standard right now. None of the drip tips are actually giving you the inner diameter, so you're gonna have to actually visually inspect it yourself. It's not that hard to do. Majority of you advanced vapors that are already vaping super sub-ohm, you guys should already know this. And you guys should have an arsenal of drip tips in your collection, like I do. Like I have like literally 60 different drip tips now. But just it's very important to kind of know your setup, how you like it, and all that. I was going to get a small hole drip tip such as this. I kind of give you an example of why I don't use small hole drip tips on RDAs. See that it's not as thick of a vapor. At the same time, it's not as good as far as it's too hot. I don't like hot vapes. I don't mind warm vapes, but when it's a hot vape, you have a very high chance of burning your cotton, and I just don't like hot vapes. I like warm vapes. So something like this tiny little drip tip, you'll still get the airflow, but you won't get the performance. Of such as a huge honky drip tip with a huge inner diameter in the 510. So I'll probably start using it like this with a medium-sized diameter. The bigger holes I'll probably use in my Igo M or my Stellaire or my Storm. Pretty much the Origins type atomizer. Alright guys, that's about it. It's a drip tip. It's a drip tip video. Another funny little novice drip tip would be this glow-in-the-dark thumbs up. You know, I'm sorry, SOSeliquids.com has not been up to date. I'll contact my guy and try to get that up as soon as possible. The drip tips, I only have 3 of these perfectly small, my favorite drip tips for sale. So there's only 3 of them for sale right now. So the first 3 people that snag it, it's done. You know, I do have 4 of these for sale, the novice, and I do have 4 of the Panda Bear. So all the novice stuff I have like 4 or more. But as far as this tiny drip tip with a huge ass hole in the bottom, there's only 3 of them. And I'm gonna go ahead and contact my guy to put it on SOSeliquid.com. The first 3 to get it, or even the first 3 to email me and say I want it, it's $9.99, free shipping. If you email me, it's gonna be shipping if you order it online. But that is kind of pretty much it. That's my update for you guys. Thanks for watching.